Bag Maker. Today I'm going to be talking about a sewing machine themed cookie cutter, various fabrics that I've added to my stash. The book review will be for a book called Wellness for Makers. In Bag Lab today we'll be talking about how to wash a bag, and there's a great giveaway at the end. I'm Sarah Lawson from Sew Sweetness. Thanks so much for joining me for Social Sunday, my weekly sewing chat. Hey everyone, happy Sunday and welcome to Social Sunday. Thank you so much for tuning in to the show today. Before I get started, just a friendly reminder, just about everything that I talk about during Social Sunday are things that I've purchased myself. So these are not things that I'm getting paid to talk to you about, but just cool things that I found that I'd like to share with you. And everything that I'm scheduled to talk about, I link to in the description. So if you're interested in finding out more about any of the books, fabrics, notions, or projects that I talk about during Social Sunday, just check that link in the description and you can find out more information there. I see Sheila's watching from Southwestern Ontario. Newbie to the channel, welcome Sheila. Thank you so much for tuning in. So today, instead of the notion of the week, I found sort of a cool sewing related item that many of you might be interested in, especially for the holidays. Danny's going to switch to the overhead camera so that I can show you what it looks like. And this is the sewing machine, the Featherweight cookie cutter. It's a plastic cookie cutter, and along with the kind of hang tag, there's a recipe for sugar cookies with icing, and then there's some decorating tips on the inside as well. I thought this was really great, especially for if you're a member of a quilt guild, if you're going to monthly meetings. Sometimes they have snacks and beverages set out, maybe even for a holiday party. I thought this was pretty nifty. So I've linked to this in the description, and excuse me, you can find out more information there. I'll definitely be making a lot of these sewing machine cookie cutters, probably Thanksgiving. I think I'm going to break it out. My birthday is usually around Thanksgiving, and seemed like it would be a fun tray of cookies to have for the holiday feast. So I have a question for you. Let me know in the comments, what's your favorite cookie? So Violet was just asking me earlier today, we sort of make a cookie bar called a Carmelita. So I think that's probably one of my favorites. Definitely tons of sugar in that one. Lots of caramel, chocolate chips, brown sugar, just loaded with sugar. But let me know in the comments what your favorite cookie is.
Sarah, don't forget about me. I love the ones your grandma makes, the pillow.
Okay, they're kind of nut-filled cookies. I don't remember the name of them, but yeah, those are really, really good ones too. So we haven't played any family games in a while, and yesterday we broke out. We played a few rounds of several different games, and this is the first one that we pulled out. And I know sometimes some of you ask what games we're playing so you can purchase games for your family or to play around the holidays. So I thought I would show this one on screen, and it's really easy. The rules are super easy. We have a few of these timeline games. We also have one for animals, but I pulled out the inventions and the historical events because these both play almost the exact same. So I'll pull out the inventions. So how it works is everyone gets several cards depending on how many total players there are. So we played 4 of us, so each of us got 5 cards to start with. And basically you're laying out your cards in a timeline. So on one side of the card is the year that the invention was created, as well as what it is. So this one says 1954, Lord of the Rings was published. And so on the other side of the card is just the information minus the date. So everyone gets a card, 5 cards, and you start out with one in the middle where you can see the date. And basically you have to decide if you're going to place your card before or after. You're creating a timeline and you want everything to go in historical order. So for this one, I'm going to guess it came before 1957, and if you're correct, you get to leave your card down. And if you're wrong, you get to pick up another card, and it replaces the one that you placed incorrectly. So I think this is really fun for learning historical events and inventions because you have to think really hard. Some of them, like yesterday I had, when was the toothpaste tube invented? So
you can see a little better.
Okay. So let me pick the invention of agriculture. So I know that happened really early, so I'm going to place that over here in the timeline. So you can certainly place it in between cards. Mine happened to go on one end, but you can guess. What we do is we usually set the card down where we think it's going to happen in between these two cards, and then we flip it over, and if it goes there, then we kind of slide it in. So it's a really fun game. Obviously, the rules are really easy to pick up, and the whole family can play, and it's also a bit of learning in there as well. So I've linked to the timeline games in the description. When I was grabbing the links earlier today, I noticed that they've updated their tins, which holds the cards, but I'm assuming the cards are the same, and I'm assuming the size of the cards are the same too. But just so you know, if you're looking, your tins might look a little different than mine if you're picking up a brand new tin. But I just wanted to share this game because it's just really fun. And even when the kids were smaller, we used to play. I would say for slightly younger children than mine are already teenage years, maybe the Timeline Animals game, if you can still find that one. The Timeline Animals game, there's a couple options, but we were usually playing with lifespan of the animal. So like, for instance, lifespan of a bee, lifespan of an elephant, and you have to put those in sort of numerical order. So those are fun as well. So new fabrics that I've added to my stash, trying to work through my few big piles that I've been collecting over the summer. So Danny's going to switch back to the overhead camera so that I can share with you what I've picked up. So this first stack of Halloween themed fabrics is from, no, this is fine, is from Art Gallery Fabrics, Sweet and Spookier fabric line. So they had a couple of iterations of these fabrics. And I like the bright colors. I like the Halloween themed fabrics, and I do have the first set of the Sweet and Spooky fabrics. So I'm thinking of putting together some sort of quilt, but with larger blocks so you can sort of see the graphics, even though some of them are smaller than others. But this one's really cool too. It reminds me of those little wax fangs that you put in your mouth that you get for trick or treat. Haven't had one of those in a while, but still remember them. And this next one, I like this one a lot with the bats. And then they have some panel prints as well. That one's upside down. Let me turn that around. The bigger, let me show this one first. Looks like I picked up a bigger piece of this one. I really like the different bottles. And this one with the panels, I think I'll hold up over the front camera if that's okay, Danny. These would be good for throwing into the quilt for the larger blocks. Also, maybe for trick-or-treat bags or pouches. So, hopefully that came up well on camera. And then these are some of the larger panels on the other side. So, really fun fabric line. I've linked to that one in the description. And I also have a few more to share with you, non-Halloween themed. So this next one is a linen canvas, and it's called Chickadee. So it's got some birds as well as some florals. I just picked up a half yard of this, but I think I probably should have gotten a yard because I have actually a bag in mind to make with this one. This next one's got some glitter. I know Danny is not a fan of glitter on things. Tell us your feelings about glitter, Danny.
I don't mind glitter on fabric if it doesn't come off. I don't like glitter on anything that you can get on your hands because it goes straight to your eyes when you rub it, and then you got a problem.
And this next one is kind of got different lemurs on it. I liked it because it wasn't sort of an all-over print. I just liked that you can, depending on how big of a project you're making, take little bits and pieces. Let me see. It should be different on this other side as well. I don't know. I just liked, it's kind of a whimsical print, so that's why I liked it. So I've linked to all of these fabrics in the description in case you're interested in picking up any of those fabrics after the show. I have another question for you. Let me know in the comments. What was your favorite Halloween costume as a child? So My mom used to make our costumes. I remember, I don't know if you remember, there was a cartoon called He-Man, and there was also one called She-Ra. One year I was She-Ra. That was probably one of my favorites. The dogs also some years had costumes too, so that was fun. And earlier today I decided that one of our Social Sundays shows falls on the day before Halloween, so I thought it would be fun to, on that particular show, share some photographs of your favorite handmade costumes or handmade trick-or-treat bags. So if you would like to email me a photo of said Halloween costume or trick-or-treat bag, Danny, could you put my email address up on the screen? My email is sarah@sewsweetness.com. Feel free to email me a photo, and depending on how many photos we receive, I might not be able to share all of the photos on the show, but I'll certainly show as many as I can. And also, if you've made a Halloween costume for a child and it's not your child, perhaps it's your grandchild, or you made a costume for a neighbor, make sure to just get permission from the parent before you send me a photo, because obviously if I'm sharing photos on the show, it will be available on YouTube publicly. So we just want to make sure we have the parents' permission.
Sarah, there was a hot question. Are you going to be dressing up for that show?
Oh, that's a great question. I guess.
It was mine.
Oh, that was your question? I guess I haven't been thinking about Halloween yet before today, but maybe I will see what I can do as far as a costume. I will probably guarantee that I won't be making a costume just because I'm working on some patterns right now, and I'd rather not stop to make myself a costume, but maybe I can pick something up. I'll have to see what's available, what looks good. I feel a little sad not having a handmade costume, because definitely the handmade costumes are so much better than ones you can buy in the store. Obviously, the store-bought costumes, you can feel they're, I don't want to denigrate the store-bought costumes, but you can tell the fabric is a little bit cheaper, not as well made as the handmade costume, but I probably will be getting a store-bought costume this year. What are you thinking for a costume, Danny?
For you or me?
For you.
Where's Waldo?
That's an awesome costume. I remember Cam from Modern Family, the TV show, dressed up as
I can't do it then.
characters from Where's Waldo. That just pops to my mind. So the book review for this week is an awesome book called Wellness for Makers. I think if you're like me, you perhaps struggle with your posture, with perhaps parts of your body maybe feeling achy, especially after repetitive motions. Sometimes in sewing or other handwork like knitting or crochet, we have a lot of repetitive motions, and it kind of makes certain body parts stiff, like hands, knees, things like that. So this book kind of addresses some of those issues. So Danny's going to switch to the overhead camera. This is what the book looks like. Also, I wanted to mention there's also a podcast under the same name, Wellness for Makers. I've linked to the podcast in the description. I have not yet listened to the podcast, but I took a browse of some of the podcast topics earlier today, and I wrote 3 of them down just so I could share some of the podcast episodes. One of them was called Wiggle While You Work, which I took to mean taking breaks from working on your craft and moving around. Feeling misunderstood, which I kind of relate to in regards to the episode was about friends or family misunderstanding what your craft is about. And another episode was called Listen to Your Body with the Knitting PT. So in case you're interested in the podcast, I've also linked to that in the description. I've linked to the book separately as well. So I'm just going to flip through and show there's a lot of photographs in the book. Obviously, there's a lot more information than I'm going to bookmark and share on the show, but I thought these were the things that immediately stood out to me. So, standing. This is a problem I have as well. Standing correctly, obviously you can sort of see which ones are wrong. This is one that I'm guilty of, kind of hunching my back over, tilting my pelvis forward. I have this problem when I'm riding too. Obviously, this is the correct one. I'm trying to really think about this, especially when I'm walking around throughout the day, because I do stand to sew. I am moving around a lot between the sewing machine and the ironing board, and just trying to keep this in mind while I'm working, just to keep good posture. movement of the shoulder blades as well. This is super important. And again, something I'm also trying to keep in mind when I'm standing, because posture is really important, especially as I'm getting older. I'm thinking a lot more about posture and what I'm doing to my body, because I want to try to avoid having aches and pains later on. And sitting, for us that are sitting to sew, these graphics I thought were super important. Again, all of these are wrong positions as far as posture. You don't want to have too much tilt in any one direction, and the book goes over correct posture for sitting as well. And later on, there's a section devoted to seated posture. This one I am a culprit of for many years, sitting at my desk working on the computer, crossing my legs. I always thought it was fine. Then I started to have problem with one of my knees sort of feeling sore, and so this is addressed in the book as well. Having a neutral posture when sitting, something I really never thought of. I just thought, well, you can just sit however you want, however, whatever feels comfortable. So there's sections in the book for movement trackers, taking breaks in the day. So this book is basically getting you set up to have good movements during your day, good posture when you're working on your craft. Different stretches and exercises are covered in this book as well, such as these right here. And stretching your muscles so that they feel good and you get some movement in during your day. Also discussed in this book is sort of strengthening exercises to create balance to what you're doing. So if you're holding your fingers in this photographed position a lot, what to do to sort of counteract that. And I can relate to this when I was working on cross stitch a lot in the evenings. My fingers would, from holding the hoop and from holding the needle, would feel like clenched in this position, and my hands actually started to hurt. So this chapter is really important for counteracting movements based on what you're doing in your craft so that you don't feel sore. Massage is covered in the book as well, using foam rollers and different tools to get some massage, some blood flowing. And then some strength exercises. I think stretching was covered in the book as well. Strength is important also, especially when we get older. We need to sort of put some more muscle in our bodies so our bodies can keep moving and being healthy. And then this was really cool. I'm always looking at different chair options. This is a chair I've never seen before, but I thought it was really interesting because of all the different positions, the different healthy positions that you can sit in this particular chair. So I've only covered a few pages on the bookmarks, on my little bookmarks, but this book is almost 130 pages long. So almost every page has some photographs on it. If you happen to catch it, if you'd either like to purchase it or happen to catch it from your library, I think this is a really interesting read and something really important to think about as far as keeping healthy so that you continue working on your craft. Especially lots of crafts are staying in the same position for a long period of time, such as the sewing machine. So yeah, I thought it was really interesting, and I thought it was a super interesting topic. And again, the podcast is a complement to the book. It's called Wellness for Makers. Danny's favorite part of the Sewcial Sunday show, we'd like to invite all of the bag makers to stand proud. Let us know in the comments that you're part of the Sew Sweetness Squad. Danny and I are both so grateful that you've tuned in to the show, and we really, really appreciate you. So tonight's Bag Lab topic is...
Whoa. Hold on.
Yes,
sir.
yes, I know.
You ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
We're interrupting the show for a special report because now it is time for Bag Lab.
All right, tonight's episode of Bag Lab is a question that I get periodically: how to wash your finished bag, and this can also apply to store-bought bags as well. I admit I've only washed bags periodically throughout the years, and so I sort of wanted to have this discussion because I think it would be helpful, and I also would like to get your feedback as far as how you wash your own bags. And so yesterday I started investigating washing the bag. I threw this particular bag in the washer and in the dryer last night. This is the Hyacinth bag. As you can see, it's a light colored fabric, so really susceptible to dirt and looking a little bit grungy. So we pre-recorded some stuff yesterday before I put it in the washing machine. So Danny's going to play that pre-recorded content, and then I'll jump on after that so we can have a little bit more of a discussion. But if you have washed your bags before, if you have a tried and true process, go ahead and type your process in the comments anytime. And Danny will put some of your comments up on the screen throughout the demonstration. So here's that first clip. Today's question for Bag Lab came from Anne, and Anne wanted to know how to wash her satellite bag, which she made in Tula Pink fabric. The bag was starting to look a little bit grubby, and so she wanted to know how to wash her bag. So I referenced an email sent to me earlier from Shelia, and Shelia wrote, I have a cream and brown handbag with cream leather accents, which I carried for several years. Of course, it became dirty. I Googled washing it and found an article about using Dr. Bronner's Pure Castile soap to wash my bag. I used an OxyClean solution on the fabric and put it in a mesh bag and washed on gentle. It turned out very well, and it even softened the leather. And I also wanted to add a PS to Shelia's tip about washing her bag. If you prefer to hand wash your bag instead, that would be okay too. So I pulled out this Hyacinth bag that I made many years ago, and as you can see, I used a light colored fabric, and let me see if I can show you the bottom of the bag. So as you can see, the bottom of the bag has a brown stain. So I really wanted to address the stain on this bag. So I'm going to do what Shelia suggested. I've got my mesh bag right here. I'm going to place the bag inside the mesh bag, zip it up. I'm going to set my washing machine to the gentle cycle, and I'll probably put a couple of other light items inside, maybe a few t-shirts to go along with it, just so it's not the only item in the wash. And I went ahead and purchased this Dr. Bronner's soap. I got the unscented version. They have scents as well if you prefer scents. I'm going to skip the OxyClean, but I am going to wash it. I'm going to put a link in the description from the Dr. Bronner's website of different amounts you can use depending on if you have a high efficiency washer or not. So that link will be in the description. And I'm also going to, because I get questions about washing and drying bags, I'm not only going to put it in the washing machine, but I'm going to put it in the dryer as well. And we'll see how it turns out. Okay, so the bag has been in the washer and the dryer on the gentle or delicate cycle. Before I open the mesh bag, I would like to ask in the comments if you have washed a bag before, either a store-bought bag or a bag that you made, how did you wash it? So let me know in the comments whether you watch on Facebook or YouTube, and Danny's going to put some of your comments on the screen near the end of the demonstration, just because this isn't the only way to wash a bag. There's other ways, and so we'd like to share some of the other ways as well. So Danny's going to put a graphic up on the screen right now. And this graphic is from the Dr. Bronner's website. I've also linked to this in the description. And it shows for laundry or hand washing the dilution amounts for the Dr. Bronner's Pure Castile soap, because that's what I use. And according to the information on their website, I use the Castile soap, the baking soda, and the vinegar. So again, the link is in the description for the Dr. Bronner's website in case you'd like to reference that information again. So Danny, you can switch to the overhead camera. And here's my mesh bag. Again, the bag has gone in the washing machine and in the dryer on the gentle or delicate cycle. And this is what it looks like. So I think the fabric looks maybe slightly brighter than when I first put it in. It is kind of a muted fabric to begin with. If you notice, the stain's still there, but I'm not super surprised about that, just because this is probably a 7 or 8 year old stain. I don't remember if some liquid spilled inside the bag or if I just set it down in something. I'm not super worried about the stain. I was more concerned about showing the condition of the bag after it's been washed and dried. So it feels pretty similar to the structure of the bag. This is foam interfacing in this particular bag. Feels pretty similar to the structure of the bag. I haven't ironed it yet. This is fresh from that mesh bag. So I wanted to share it with you fresh from the washer and dryer, and then after I've ironed it, which I'll do in a second. So this is looks pretty good on the outside. The inside, I do see, I believe this layer over here is the fabric plus shape flex. It does look a little wrinkly, and we'll see if the look improves after the ironing. And this foam interfacing that I usually use is the by Annie Soft and Stable, which is a sew-in foam. So I just wanted to clarify that. So I'm going to take this over to the iron, and I'll be back in a second. Okay, so Danny, if you wouldn't mind switching to the overhead camera. So this is the bag after I ironed it. So what I did was I ironed the strap just because it looked a little bit wrinkly. The body of the bag, I have some silicone oven mitts, and so what I did was I put my hand covered in the oven mitt on the inside so I could iron the body, or you could put it on the end of your ironing board as well if your board is, if it fits on the end of the board. And here's that problem area that I showed after it came out of the dryer. This part with the shape flex was super wrinkly, and actually the iron did a really good job of smoothing everything out, and it looks like the smoothness at least looks like what it did before it went into the washer and dryer. So overall, super happy with, you can switch back to the front camera, Danny. The bag really just feels and looks the same as before I washed it. And by the way, this is the first time I washed this bag. I don't even remember what this stain was. Honestly, it could have been anything, but from 7-ish years ago, I can understand why the stain might not have come out. If you have any tips for me as far as the stain goes, but as far as the rest of the fabric, this being a cream colored fabric, I feel like washing it really brightened it up. A few things that I wanted to mention before. Danny put some of your comments on the screen. I'm assuming there were some comments coming in about washing.
Ready?
Hang on one second. So a few things that I wanted to mention. While I'm certainly not a wash expert, I feel like the fewest things you can do to your bag as far as cleaning or washing goes, the better. If you never have to wash the bag, all the better. If you need to wash it once in a great while, that's totally fine. I certainly wouldn't recommend washing on a regular basis because just the washing process just kind of ages things, especially fabrics. If you are needing to clean a bag that is cork or leather, perhaps you have a bag that's completely vinyl, cork, or leather, I would recommend, here's an annex pouch that I made in cork fabric, and I would just recommend taking a damp cloth and wiping it down if there's any dirty spots or anything like that that need to be cleaned up, as opposed to putting it in the washing machine. Because those fabrics are, for the most part, water resistant, wiping them down might be a better option than putting it in the washing machine. Consider the interfacing in the bag before you wash it. This bag that I used for my wash and dry is pretty much just foam interfacing and shape flex interfacing. So both sort of softer interfacings. This bag over here, this Amethyst Project bag, this has 2 layers of Peltex in the lid, and there's also Peltex in the bottom of the bag. And in my mind, I want my Peltex to remain as flat as possible and retain its stiffness. Not that the wash will take the stiffness out of it, but it will sort of soften the interfacing a little bit. And so for this particular project, I might try to avoid putting it in the washing machine and dryer. I might, if it happened to have gotten dirty, I might hand wash it and let it air dry instead. And again, there's always alternatives. You don't necessarily have to put it in the washing machine. You can try hand washing it instead with the Dr. Bronner's or whatever your cleaning agent of choice is. And also, if you are hand drying your bag, an option is to, after it's gotten wet and you're letting it hand dry, especially if you'd like to have it hold its shape while it's drying, you can put a dry towel or another item inside it to hold the shape and let it dry, perhaps let it dry overnight so it dries completely. So I know Danny's been collecting some of your recommendations for washing your handmade bags, so we're going to put some of those up on the screen. Jessie says, I don't wash my bags, I just make a new one. That's a really great tip. And I'm kind of along those lines. I just have so many bags. I'm not an oft washer, but obviously in the case for this bag, I thought it was due. RJ says, hand wash only with just a little bit of detergent. I then air dry. Ray says, personally, I only spot clean room temp water on a face cloth or 70% alcohol sprays to soak and dab off to get rid of musty smells.
Go ahead, take your drink.
No. Oh, this is a good one, and I use this product as well. Rob says, I wash my handmade cosmetic bags in Soak. Soak is a company, and they make other products such as Flatter Spray, which is a sort of a starch alternative spray. And I actually do use Soak for my finished cross-stitch projects. But anyway, let me read the rest of her comment. I wash my handmade cosmetic bags in Soak, which is a no-rinse wool wash. After putting them in the Soak solution, I use a toothbrush to take off any old makeup. Then I roll it in a towel. That's awesome. And actually, that's what I do with my cross-stitch. So I read about the finished cross stitch that the oils from your fingers, over time, it can make an appearance on your finished piece. And so I use this Soak product to hand wash. You can also do that with your delicates as well, which is what I do with mine. And then roll in a towel and let it air dry. Let's see. Rob also looks like this is a follow-up comment. Soak no rinse wool wash is amazing for any delicate washing. It doesn't need agitation, so it really maintains integrity. I actually put mine in the bathtub, so I put the stopper in the bathtub, get the water running, put a little of that Soak liquid in there, and just let it fill. I just let it fill a little bit. I don't need a full bathtub to wash either delicates or a finished cross stitch, but it's really amazing. I've gone through a few bottles already, and I'm really happy with it. They have unscented Soak as well as different scents if you prefer scents. SkyTechBit says, baking soda is great for removing odors and stains on materials. Yeah, I used that baking soda when I washed this, and it actually, my Dr. Bronner's was unscented and actually smelled really good when it came out of the dryer. Rolanda says, I use pre-spot on the really dirty spots, and then I throw it in the wash and dryer and then iron after. I only wash all cotton or waterproof canvas bags. Yeah, that's a really great tip, Rolanda, about just washing the cotton bags or the waterproof canvas. Cindy says, I like to use Orvis soap and baking soda. I haven't heard of Orvis, but I'm going to write that down so I could check it out after the show. Donnie B says, pillowcase, color catcher, wool wash cycle, wool wash detergent, dried outside in the shade. That's a really great tip about drying in the shade also, so the sun doesn't affect the colors in the fabric. Liz says, YouTube, I wash on the delicate cycle. I use borax or white vinegar with a little baking soda, and they come out perfect. Dry on low temperature or hang dry. Sister Gina says, OxyClean will work on that stain. You know what? It's so funny. I was going to pick up the OxyClean at the store yesterday, and then I thought, I don't know. I don't know if I want to use so many different products, but I will definitely pick up the OxyClean for that stain that remained on my bag. Linda says, what do you do when you have cotton and cork on the bag? So that's a really great question. Well, we have done tests with the cork, putting it in the washing machine and the dryer. I don't feel that that's an ideal situation for the cork, especially since the cork is, the actual cork material is heat bonded to the backing fabric, which is a cotton polyester blend. So I feel like the heat from the iron, not heat from the iron, the heat from the dryer might cause a little breakdown over time. So if your bag is a combination of cork and cotton fabric, perhaps the hand wash and the air dry would be the best option for that. Barbara Ann says, I suggest using K2R to remove spots of oil and dirt. Thank you for that recommendation as well. Debbie says hit the like button. Thanks so much, Debbie. So I really appreciate all of your input as far as the washing of the bags. Also, if you're selling bags, might not be a bad idea to include care instructions on maybe a little hang tag on the bag if you're selling either online or if you're selling in person at a local craft fair. By the way, Violet and I were planning on going to an outdoor craft fair today. I was just browsing online and I looked up events near me and I found a craft fair and I thought, all right, this is really great timing. We'll go to this craft fair. So it was at an outdoor mall. Violet and I drove over there at the time that it opened and we saw nothing. So I thought, did it get canceled? I mean, is it the weather? I was really looking forward to going to a craft fair. So I'll have to look for, maybe I can find another one in the area sometime before the holidays. I haven't been to a craft fair in a while, but I thought it might be something fun to check out. Let me know in the comments if you sell at craft fairs as well. So I know a lot of you from seeing conversations in the Facebook group sell at craft fairs. If that's you, let me know in the comments. I'm interested to see how many people are selling their handmade bags and pouches at craft fairs. All right, I'm going to get over to some live questions in a minute. So if you have a question for me, let me know in the comments. It can either be sewing related question about a notion or tool, or a bag making related question. Type that question right now in the comments, either on YouTube or Facebook, wherever you watch our show. Danny will be collecting some of your questions and I'll answer as many as I can in just a second. Before we get over to that, I wanted to announce the winner of last week's giveaway, and that winner is Suzanne Mazzola. So congratulations to you, Suzanne. Please email me after the show. My email is sarah@sewsweetness.com, and so I can get you set up with your prize. There is another giveaway at the end of tonight's show. All right, Danny, take it away with the questions. Errol says, can you wash a bag that has been treated with OD coat? That's a really great question. I will have to check the package instructions. I'm assuming you can, since the whole purpose of OD coat is to make the fabric water resistant. By the way, speaking of OD coat, I'm planning a new OD coat video for sometime this fall. Just like to update some of the application. I've started applying the OD coat with, you can use an old plastic gift card, old credit card to kind of swipe and create really thin layers. And so we're going to be doing a new OD coat video sometime soon. Dana says, would soak work for quilts? It should. Definitely if you're hand washing a quilt, you'll want to do that in the bathtub like I do for my cross stitch. But yeah, I don't see why it wouldn't work. Debbie says, how do you stretch and frame your cross stitch? I'll write myself a note to show you on next Sunday's show. But I purchased this frame that I found on Amazon. I was having a hard time, like I mentioned earlier, kind of gripping the cross stitch frame. So based on recommendations that I received via email from viewers of the show, I purchased a different frame that's sort of kind of mounted. So it's the circular frame and then it's kind of mounted on a bigger circle on the bottom, and it kind of is adjustable. So it kind of moves depending on how I need it situated. Like I like to cross stitch in bed, so I kind of situate it so it's on my lap so I can watch TV. Anyway, I'll share that frame with you on next Sunday's show. It wasn't a cheap frame, but it's really helped me, and I haven't had any hand pain since I purchased that particular frame. Casey says, have you ever considered getting a sit-down long arm? I would like to, if I could have all of the sewing gadgets that I wanted. I'm kind of short on space for something like that, so I don't think that will ever happen. But I do really admire some of the people that I follow on Instagram have either long arms or sit-down frames, and I really admire being able to long arm your own quilt, but I just don't see that happening space-wise in our house, unfortunately. Anne says, when is fabric too old to use? That is a really good question. I hope for a long time. I have some fabrics that are at least 10 years old. If anyone has thoughts about Anne's question, let us know in the comments and Danny will try to look out for it and post it on the screen.
What am I looking for?
The question was, when is fabric too old to use?
Okay.
Joanne says, do you have any suggestions and or tips for selling a sewing machine? That's a good question.
Facebook Marketplace, a great location. Craigslist.
I wonder if eBay, what do you think about selling a sewing machine on eBay, Danny?
Yeah, I would think eBay good too. Shipping might be expensive. When you do Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, they're local generally, so you don't have to deal with shipping.
Oh, okay. I bet there are also, I haven't investigated this recently, I bet there also are Facebook groups dedicated to buying and selling of sewing machines. I bet if you check on Facebook, if you are a Facebook user, I bet there's some groups like that over on Facebook. Wendy says, what's the difference between woven and non-woven interfacing? Does it really make a difference? It actually does. So the woven interfacing, and the reason I found this out or perhaps revisited it recently, because the opossum bag, which is one of the new patterns from earlier this year, it has sort of diagonal pockets on the front and back, and I wanted those pockets to not be wavy, which can sometimes happen with sort of a diagonal cut of fabric, and so I use strips, just small strips of non-woven interfacing just along the top edge of the pocket. It stabilizes it and allows it not to warp or stretch. So woven interfacing is probably you're most familiar with Pellon shaped flax, also known as SF101. That is a fusible woven interfacing, and you can sort of see the weave on that, and there's also a weave to quilting cotton. With that being said, you might also be familiar with your quilting cotton stretching on the bias. So on a 45-degree angle, if you stretch your fabric, it will actually kind of be a little bit stretchy in that direction. And if you stretch it from side to side, it's not stretchy. That bias is in woven interfacing as well as woven fabric. And so that's why the non-woven interfacing is sometimes helpful for certain applications. Like I mentioned, that diagonally placed pocket, because that's sort of a bias and can stretch, and that's why it warps. And so that's why sometimes the non-woven interfacing is helpful. It's also commonly used on things like collars for shirts, like say a button-down shirt. Cindy says, for old fabric, I would give it the tug test and see if it rips. That's a good tip. Thank you, Cindy. Janet says, I have some fabric from 30 years ago, and because it is such good quality, it is fine. I made my granddaughter a sundress for her birthday this year, and it was wonderful. Thank you so much, Janet, and I'm glad that fabric that you saved was useful, and that you made a lovely dress. I'm sure you have some great pictures and memories from making that dress, too. Carolyn says, I have used fabric that was put away years ago by my mom. It was found after her passing, had no problem with it, and to test it first, I washed it to make sure. That's a really great tip as well, Carolyn. Thank you so much for mentioning about the washing first. Craft Maven Deb says, Sarah, do you ever use waterproof or water-resistant canvas? Have you considered carrying some in the shop? To be honest, I don't have a vast experience with waterproof canvas, but it is one of the topics that we'll hopefully be able to discuss on a show on Sewcial Sunday. We're hoping for some time in October, so stay tuned for that show. We'll be going through all of your questions about waterproof canvas and water-resistant canvas in that particular demonstration. Are you calling it on the questions already? I feel like the shows just fly every single Sunday, and for that I'm grateful. It just means that I'm enjoying myself, having a good time, and I hope you are too. So one last thing to get to is the giveaway for tonight. So since I was sharing this Hyacinth bag earlier, I wanted this to be part of the giveaway for tonight. So the giveaway prize is the Hyacinth bag video plus PDF pattern and a packet of Soft and Stable. And of course, if you already own this particular pattern and video, I'm happy to replace it with a different one. I pulled earlier today some photos of the Hyacinth bag from the Facebook group, some of your makes, and so Danny's going to put some of the photos up on the screen right now. All right, so this one was made by Beth. I really like the salty fabric. It's really tongue-in-cheek and really cute, and I like how she modified her strap as well for this particular bag. Bronwyn made one with tulip pink frogs, and she paired it with cork fabric to match the frog fabric, and I thought this was a great use of cork. Small bit of it. Same tulip pink frog fabric. This one was made by Dawn. She quilted the front. I love the tassel. I love how she changed up the strap. This one I think is Danny's favorite, Doctor Who's Cyberman fabric. Ella made this particular Hyacinth bag. And then this one, I'm always a sucker for text print. Iris made this Hyacinth bag with a large scale text print. I think this one looks really, really awesome. Came out great. My friend Melissa converted her Hyacinth bag into a backpack with backpack straps. This one looks fantastic as well and also serves as a slim backpack. Michelle made hers in Allison Glass Ex Libris fabric and added the grommets for special visual interests. This dog German Shepherd bag was made by Nicole, and this is a great use of panels for the front of the bag, by the way. This version was made by Ozzy Bird. I just love the photos of this bag. Love the large scale print. The colors really pop on that particular bag. So just some examples for some inspiration for some different Hyacinth bags that were made and posted in our Facebook group. So the giveaway, as usual, is randomly drawn from all of the comments from Facebook and YouTube. We compile all those together, and I will draw one randomly drawn winner at the end of the day this Saturday and announce that winner on next Sunday's show. And I have an extra bonus question that you can answer in the comments for an extra method of entry. What's something that you're always misplacing? Maybe it's your keys, maybe it's your cell phone. Certainly lately I've misplaced my cell phone a few times, and it's rather unfortunate because it's usually when the cell phone is on silent, meaning it doesn't help for Danny to give me a call on my cell phone if I can't hear where it is. My glasses are another one that I'm always misplacing. What about you, Danny? That's a good one, right?
Answers to questions.
Touche, touche. So thank you again so much for joining us for Sewcial Sunday. I hope you have a great week and happy sewing. Bye, everybody.